Hey guys, this is Kate from Kate Barrios Designs, and today I will show you how to knit the cross loop stitch. This is a very beautiful textured stitch, and I would say it's an intermediate level, but it's not as difficult as it looks. You only need to know how to work the knit stitch, the purl stitch, the slip stitch, and the front and back crosses, and that's pretty much it. I'll show you how to do all of these stitches in the video, so keep on watching. For the demonstration purposes, we're gonna start with 2 stitch repetitions plus 6 and 6 more stitches for the edges. So that gives us a total of 36 stitches. Here I've already made 1 row repetition, so 16 rows I've worked already. I cast it on with a long tail cast on, and we're gonna start now with row 1. We're gonna start on the wrong side row, and we're going to knit the 3 stitches. Here we go. And now we are gonna start with the stitch pattern. 2, slip 2. The yarn is going to be in the front, and we're gonna slip the stitches as if to purl. 1 and 2, and we're going to knit 2. Now again, slip 1 with the yarn in front and as if to purl, knit 4, slip 1, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, and again slip 1, knit 4, slip 1, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, and we're going to knit the last 3 stitches. There we go. For row 2, we're gonna start by purling the first 2 stitches. Actually, we're gonna slip the first one, purl the second and the third stitch, and we're going to start with the pattern. So we're going to purl 2, and now we're going to do a front cross. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to skip this first stitch from here, the first slip stitch from the first row. With the yarn in front, we are going to purl the second stitch. You can see here I have the second stitch through the back loop. I'm going to grab the yarn, purl. You can see here the bump of the purl. Without dropping the stitch from the needle, you're going to pass the yarn to the back, and now we are going to knit the first stitch as usual. And then you drop this stitch from the needle, so both stitches are of the needle, and here you have the front cross. This stitch is a purl here, as you can see. And we're going to now purl 2. We're going to knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, purl 2, and again we have a front cross. So let's do it again. We're going to pass the yarn to the front. We're going to skip the first stitch on the needle, and we're going to purl this one through the back loop. So we go to the back, we grab the back loop, purl it, we have it on the needle, we pass the yarn to the back, and now we knit the stitch, the first stitch on the needle, and we drop them both off the needle. And there you go, the front cross is completed. Again, we purl 2 stitches, knit 1. We knit the stitches that are slipped from the back, from the previous row. Do this, purl 4, knit 1, and the last we purl 2, and now again we have the last front cross. So yarn in the front, we go to the back, skip the first stitch on the needle, we grab the back loop of the second stitch and we purl it. We pass the yarn to the back and we now knit this first stitch on the needle. There you go, and now we drop the second stitch of the needle and we purl to the end. There you go. We have our front crosses, which means that they are leaning towards the left. So now for row 3 is basically the same as as row 1. We're gonna slip 1 stitch, knit the second and the third stitches, because these are our selvage stitches, and it's basically the same as row 1. It's the same directions: knit 2, slip 2, knit 2, and then slip 1, knit 4, slip 1, knit 2, slip 2, knit 2. But you have to be careful because you will see right now. Here we have knit 2 and we're gonna slip 2 stitches, but you have to be careful here because one is a purl stitch, so we purl it, but the next one appears to be a knit stitch, you know, and in theory you should knit it, but you don't. You have to purl it. You have to slip it as if to purl, as you did, exactly as you did on row 1. So the yarn is in the front and it kind of surrounds the stitches. Not wrapped around, but just surrounded, you know. And we keep going like that. Knit 2, slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 4, knit 4, slip 1 with yarn in front, knit 2, slip 2 stitches with the yarn in front as if to purl, knit 2, and we keep going. Keep counting 4 instead of 3, and our last. Repeat, and now we finish our selvage stitches. There you go. Now for row 4 we're going to introduce the back cross. So let's see how to do it. We're gonna start with our selvage stitches, slipping 1 stitch, purling 2, and here we go. So let's go with the stitch pattern. We're gonna purl 1 and we're gonna start with a back cross, and to do that what you're gonna do is skip the first stitch with the yarn in the back and you're going to knit the second stitch as you usually would. So here you see I have the front loop of the second stitch from back to front, yarn in the back, and I am knitting it. And now I pass the yarn to the front and through the front loop of the first stitch on the needle I'm going to purl it. Wait, there you go. And now I drop both stitches off the needle. And you can see now this cross is leaning towards the right, but still the knit stitch is on the front of the purl stitch, you know, like the cross is leaning towards the right. And now we're going to do a front cross. So yarn in front, purl the second stitch on the needle through the back loop. Now yarn to the back, and we're going to knit the first stitch on the needle. We drop them both off, and we purl one stitch. There you go. Here you're gonna have two. We have the 6 stitches are purl, knit, purl, purl, knit, purl. And now we go with knit 1, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and knit 1. And you can see, like here, we're just continuing with this pattern of the loop. And again, purl 1, back cross, which means with the yarn in the back, we're going to skip the first stitch and we're going to knit the second stitch on the needle. Through the front loop, we knit it, we pass the yarn to the back, and through the front loop of the first stitch, we're going to purl it. And we drop both of them off the needle. There you go. Now the front cross. We go yarn in the front. We are going to skip the first stitch, purl the second stitch through the back loop, pass the yarn to the back, and knit the first stitch through the front loop. Purl 1, knit 1, purl 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, knit 1, sorry, and again purl 1, back cross, and again we yarn in the back, we go to the front, to the second stitch on the needle and knit it through the front loop, pass the yarn to the front, and we're going to purl that first stitch on the needle. And for the front cross, yarn in the front, purl the second stitch through the back loop, yarn to the back, and knit the first stitch. Purl 1, and we finish our selvage stitches. And here you can see how here, these points, the stitches begin to cross themselves to form this loop over here. So from now on, we're going to, it's very easy for the wrong side rows. You basically have to knit the knit stitches, for example this one, and the purl stitches you have to slip them purlwise with the yarn in the front. So knit and slip, knit, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit, 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 bump, knit, this is a bump, so yarn in the front and slip purlwise, knit, slip, knit, knit, slip, knit, slip, knit 4, slip 1, knit 1, slip 1, knit 2, slip 1, knit 1, and we finish the selvage stitches here. And that's basically all we have to do on the remaining odd rows, or the remaining wrong side rows, except for row 11, because there as in row 3, there is a purl stitch that you should need, so I'll get you there. Otherwise, you just have to do this for every wrong side row. So for row 5, which is for row 6, which is a right side row, we're going to slip 1 and purl 2 for our selvage stitches. And we have even more front crosses and back crosses here. So now we're gonna start with a back cross. So knit 1 with the yarn in the back, pass the yarn to the front and purl it. We're gonna purl 2 stitches and we're gonna do a front cross. So purl with the yarn in the front and knit the first one. With the yarn in the back, drop them off the needles. There you go. And now again, a front cross. So we have yarn in the front, purl through the back loop, the second stitch, go back to the first stitch and front cross. We're gonna purl 2 stitches, 1, 2, and we're gonna do a back cross. So skip the first one, knit the first stitch, pass the yarn to the front and purl the second stitch, the first stitch on the needle, sorry. And again, back cross here. You know, we want to move this stitch. So skip the first stitch, knit the second one without dropping it from the needle or off the needle, pass the yarn to the front and purl the first one. Knit 2 stitches and a front cross. So skip the first stitch, purl the second stitch through the back loop, pass the yarn to the back and knit the first stitch. And again, a front cross. So go to the second stitch on the needle, purl it through the back loop, and then knit the first one. Knit, purl 2 stitches, and again a back cross. So knit the first stitch, the second stitch, and purl the first stitch, and a back cross again, sorry. So knit the second stitch, purl the first stitch, drop them off the needle, purl 2, and finally a front cross. So we're going to go to the second stitch, purl through the back loop, and knit the first stitch. And we have left our selvage stitches, which we will purl. From now on, I'm gonna be skipping the odd rows or the wrong side rows, except for row 11. Keep that in mind, because as I told you before, you basically just need to knit the knit stitches and slip purlwise with the yarn in front the purl stitches, which is what I'm doing here at a very, very fast pace. For row 8, we're gonna start with our selvage stitches, 3 of them. We're going to knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, we're gonna purl 1, and we're gonna do a front cross. So yarn in front, purl the second stitch on the needle through the back loop, yarn to the back, knit the first stitch, drop them off the needle. Now a back cross. Skip the first stitch, knit the second one, yarn to the front, purl the first stitch, drop them both off the needle and purl 1 stitch. Now knit 1 and purl 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, knit 1. Here we basically have to read the pattern, and here we are. We are like bringing this loop to the half, and we are closing this one here. This one that was open, we're kind of closing it. So purl 1 stitch, we're gonna do a front cross. So yarn to the front, purl the second one through the back loop, yarn to the back, purl the first one as usual. Now back cross. Skip the first one, knit the second stitch on the needle. Here you go, back to the front, yarn to the front, and purl the first stitch through the front loop as usual. Drop them off the needle. Purl 1, knit 1, and purl 4, 2, 3, 4, knit 1, and we finish with our selvage stitches. There you go. And this is the first 8 rows of our pattern from here till here. From here till here. So we created one loop and we closed the other one here. For row 10, we're gonna start with our selvage stitches, and here we go. Knit 1, purl 4, and here we're basically completing the loop here. And now we're going to kind of cross this loop. So we're gonna purl 2, and we're gonna do a front cross. So go to the front, yarn to the front, skip the first stitch, purl the second one through the back loop, bring the yarn to the back and knit the first stitch. Purl 2 stitches, knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, and we have here our first pattern repeat from the purl 2 to the knit 1. And again, purl 2 stitches, do a front cross for these stitches. So yarn to the front, purl the second stitch, knit the first one, drop them off the needles, knit 2, knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, and selvage stitches, which is purl to end. There you go. For this row, which is a wrong side row, you kind of have to read the instructions instead of just reading your knitting. So we're gonna knit the first stitches, the first 3 stitches. We're gonna slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in the front, knit 4 stitches, yarn to the front, slip 1 purlwise, knit 2, and here, this is why you have to kind of read the instructions, because here you can see there's a purl stitch and a knit stitch here. So if you were to read it, you would just, to read the knitting, you would just like slip the first stitch and then knit this one, but you have to slip it too. So that's why you have to read the knitting. That's why you have to read the instructions. So you slip 2 stitches, knit 2, and there you go. Again, slip 1, knit 4 stitches, slip 1, knit 2 stitches, slip 2 stitches with the yarn in the front, knit 2 stitches, slip 1, knit 4, slip 1, knit 2 to the end for selvage stitches. And there you go. For row 12 we're going to do the selvage stitches, and now we're going to knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, purl 1, and we're going to make a back cross. So knit 1, the second stitch, and now we purl the first stitch, and now a front cross. So purl the second stitch and knit the first stitch, and purl 1, knit 1, purl 4, knit 1. We follow this pattern, and again purl 1, knit the first stitch. Oh, I didn't do it. The second stitch, purl the first one. Now front cross, purl the second stitch, knit the first one, and we begin to create this division here. Purl 1. Now knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, and purl the remaining stitches. And that's row 12. We keep working on each loop like this. These we are opening. For row 14 we're going to do our selvage stitches, and we're gonna start with a front cross. So purl the second stitch, knit the first one, drop them off, purl 2, now a back cross, knit the second one, purl the first stitch, drop them off, a back cross again, knit the second one, purl the first one, purl 2, and a front cross, purl the second one, knit the first stitch, and again purl the second one, knit the first one, purl 2, and a back cross, knit the first one, the second one, and now knit the first one, and again a back cross, knit the second one, purl the first one, purl 2, now a front cross, purl the second one, knit the first one, again a front cross, purl the second stitch, knit the first one, drop them off, purl 2, and a back cross. So knit the second stitch, purl the first one, and that's it. We purl to end our selvage stitches. There you go. For row 16 we're gonna do our selvage stitches, and we're gonna start with a purl 1, front cross. So purl the second stitch, knit the first one, off the needle, and now a back cross. So knit the second stitch, purl the first one, drop them off the needle, and here you can see that the loop is back again, closing. Now purl 1, knit 1, purl 4, following the shape of the loop. Here you can see. again. Purl 1, front cross, so purl the second stitch, knit the first one and a back cross. So knit the second stitch and purl the first one and purl 1. Again, we are closing this loop, knit 1, purl 4, knit 1, and for our last loop we're gonna close it again. So, and here you can see, right? So front cross, purl the second stitch, knit the first one, and the back cross, knit the second stitch and purl the first one and purl 1. And we finish by purling our selvage stitches. There you go. Here in this swatch we have 2 row repeats of the pattern and 2 stitch repeats plus 6 stitches here. So basically 1 stitch, 1 row repeat is from the cross up until here, a whole loop, or 2 halves and the cross in the middle. So there you go. I hope you enjoy this video, that you like it if you did, and that's it.